Hey, friends! I'm Jesse Fisco.
And I'm Ambry Fisco.
As founders of several successful businesses, we've experienced absolute joy and satisfaction working together to build our empire.
Our journey started off as a small business idea and has launched into a multi-million-dollar portfolio. It would have never been possible had Jesse and I not understood the key principles of making it all work together. But it has not been easy.
We found ourselves in the trenches trying to balance real life with business life while maintaining our strong commitment to creating an amazing marriage.
And we've emerged in a beautiful way together. This podcast was created to help you do what we've done, build an amazing marriage together while maintaining balance between life and business.
So here we are. You're listening to the Matrimonial Merger, a couple's guide to balancing life and business.
Let's get started.
Welcome to the Matrimonial Merger. Jesse and Ambry here. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great.
Good. I'm glad. And I'm really glad that we're going to talk about this subject tonight. It came from a listener, and the subject we're going to talk about is how do you make yourself feel comfortable in situations where you may feel uncomfortable, and more importantly, in environments that may not be 100% conducive to the way you want to live, but how do you make the best of it? And also, how do you take control of
change
it and take control. So I'm super excited to talk about that tonight. And this was a huge question, a lot to unpack. And so I hope that you guys are ready as a listener to really go on this journey with us and experience something. And I hope if this helps you and you feel a connection with the show that you'll like and share it with your friends and leave us a review, an honest review, because this will help grow the show as well. So, Ambry, first of all, wow. You and I got back from Scottsdale, Arizona, and I'm looking at you, and the Ambry I knew before we went versus the Ambry now that I'm looking at, it's a higher elevated Ambry. What happened?
Ooh. No, that's a loaded question. And over time, I hope to have a much more powerful answer for everyone. But right now what I can say is I experienced a very powerful breakthrough, if you will.
Sure.
That just gave me a lot of direction and clarity on my purpose, my higher purpose, and some things that I need to do and will do. And so, that got me very excited.
It's different, Ambry, though. You're taking notes, you're reading books, you are just, it's a different version of you. And
I've been taking notes and reading books for a long time, but it's a different intention behind it.
The energy is scary. It's also really, really attractive. I'm digging that. But it's interesting that, we both went to Scottsdale and both of us went in with the intention that we wanted to really, really experience something and for the better of our future. Mm-hmm. And both of us, wow.
Yeah.
Monumental change.
Awesome.
And it helps
it was a fun weekend.
Yeah, it helps that you surround yourself with people that are like-minded individuals to allow that energy to flow.
100%. And so, there you go. That's one tip right there. If you want to feel comfortable, align yourself with,
I love
individuals that you feel share your energy and power and motivation and all of that.
Yeah. I was going to ask, have you ever been in a situation, one that you can think of, you walk in the doors and you're like, oh my gosh, no, not that person.
Never. I've never felt like that at all.
Not this. Oh, they didn't just say that for the 10th time again. Or, oh, that joke was so corny. I'm so embarrassed.
Oh my gosh. 100%. Yeah. 100%.
And it just makes your heart just fall out your butt. It just makes you feel so freaking get me out of here, right?
Yes.
And what else does it do? I'm interested from your perspective because I
think sometimes in any situation that makes you feel uncomfortable or whatever that is, I mean, you kind of just like want to crawl in a hole. Like you want to just like put on an invisible cloak and like not be there. Like, you know, you're just like, ugh. Like it's just this very anxious feeling.
It's like a snake that just like starts to like wrap around your legs nice and slowly, and you can like see the snake, but it's like, I'm just going to move. Maybe it will go away, and it continues to go up and up. Or the cat that comes up, you know, and you're sitting there and you know it's about ready to rub up against you, and all of a sudden it's like,
you're not a fan of that?
and it does that like stretch thing, and you're like, please don't use my leg as a way for you to just feel better. Like it just makes me feel so uncomfortable. But we've all been in that situation, right?
Yes, we have. And I think like this is something that you could say like is not uncommon for people, right? So I mean, very first and foremost, like you get to choose where you are in your environment. Like so in some cases this could be as simple as like stop going there, stop doing it, stop, you know, like remove yourself. Like, there you go. And if that's not the answer, if this is something like a work relationship where you truly value your job and you wouldn't want to just, you know, quit or walk away. Or, you know, the next level, it's family relationships or.
Oh, those family reunions. Oh.
And if that's the case, like there are obviously, you know, I mean, you could remove yourself if that was the most healthy and beneficial. And for some people that could be the case. So like, I don't want to draw any like hard lines in the sand because everyone's situations are so different. However, there are things we can do to become curious and consider like why, let's just say if it's like a family thing, right? Like why, when I go to this family event, do I immediately feel like negative, frustrated, like I don't want to be here. I am not like...
Don't feel loved.
Yeah, like...
Don't feel like you fit
I'm not
in.
invested. Like I don't care to bring anything to help. I don't care to offer. Like I'm just like here.
Have you ever found yourself saying like, here? I'm the black sheep of the family? Like,
sure.
Have you heard that before?
Totally. I've heard that one before.
Yeah. You just don't get it. No one in my family understands me.
Everyone hates me. Like everyone's out to get me. Everything anyone says is geared towards me and to hurt me, or no one wants me here. Like
no one likes my kids.
There's a lot of limiting beliefs and a lot of like interesting emotions that can happen in certain family situations that can or cannot be like, you know, borderline dysfunctional or toxic.
Sure.
And maybe what we're saying sounds a bit extreme. It could, right? But this might apply to something for you.
Absolutely.
There's the thing with families, like, let's just talk about family for a minute. Like the thing with families, especially like your family, close family, you know, immediate family, is those are very intimate relationships, and there's a lot of meaning there. There's a lot of emotion involved. Like you care. It's something that is important to you. So when those emotions arise, like it's very conflicting because you want to, you know, ultimately want to be there. You want to have positive emotions, but if there are like generational programs that are manifesting themselves, it really can sabotage these relationships that we really try so hard and want so badly. And so like without even realizing it, you know, emotions arise, things go downhill, like, and you leave going like, well, that was awkward. Like, and here's another one of my favorites is like you leave a situation and all you can do is sit here and say like, oh, did you see what this person did? Oh, did you hear what she said? Did you hear what that person said to her? Did you hear what he said to me? Oh my gosh, like, did you know they did this? Did you know that, you know, they bought that? Like, okay, hold on. That's not healthy. Like, this is not what you would want from, you know, any environment that's supposed to be happy and healthy and safe. So, like, let's talk about that. You know, because there's things we can do to adjust like the trajectory of those situations.
And I think a lot of it, and I'm going to just be very assumptive here, but a lot of it starts before the event even happens.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of it is
presuppositions of like what
Oh,
will
yeah.
be.
A lot of it,
Yeah.
right? So maybe you find yourself going, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And then you find out someone's going to be there and you're like, oh, well, I don't really want to go. And
Yeah.
that person thinks this. And you start to create this storyline in your head before you even go. And
Yeah.
some people just may not go, which could then allow more people to assume and suppose certain
Why they're
things.
not there.
Right? Oh, you were going to come. What happened, right? Like, that question's my favorite. It doesn't really matter.
So there's a lot of assumptions.
But there's a lot of assumptions.
Issue.
And so a lot of it's created before you even get to that freaking event. And so one of the things I'm going to ask you is, what are you saying before you go?
Yeah, and what's your feeling? Like,
right. Are you creating an environment that's like, hey, this is going to be fun and I'm going to make the best of it? Or are you going to that environment going, oh, I don't want to eat that food. I don't want this, right?
Which is very powerful, because if you remember a few episodes back when we talked about, which episode was it? It was one where we talked about, like, if you want to get your spouse to do something, like, sell it in their model.
Oh, it was last week's episode.
That wasn't last week.
2 weeks ago.
Maybe it was 2 or maybe 3 weeks ago.
It was about the yoga,
anyways.
right?
Yeah, it was that one. I just can't remember the title. But anyways, a couple weeks ago, we talked about this. And it's like, before you go into something or before you're going to ask someone something, if you've already kind of like pre-created the outcome in your mind, don't be surprised when that's exactly what happened.
We were talking about value.
Value. Okay, so it was the value one. So
your value.
So, like, if you're going into a situation with family or at work where, like, in your mind, you've already created, like, oh, this person's probably going to, like, not, this person's probably going to be on their phone the whole time. This person's probably going to say something offensive, like, and I mean, these things rolling through our mind are all based on past experience. So it's not to say that they're not, like, legitimate, right?
Right.
But, like, get rid of it. Mm-hmm. Leave it in the past. Design something new for the now. And, like, you'd be surprised the change that can have on the way you view the outside world and the way your reality shifts. Because what's interesting is I truly believe that in a lot of these situations, like, yes, some people can be mean. Some people can be,
it's possible.
Offensive. It's possible, right?
Right.
However, like, the way that you interpret and respond and process any situation like that is key. It literally starts in you. Like, what's the reason someone says something offensive? Well, you're the one taking offense.
Or is it offensive at all?
That's what I mean. Like, you're choosing to take offense.
Right.
You're choosing to view a situation as a certain way. Whatever way it is that you're labeling it, like, that's the way you are perceiving it. Someone else next to you could be perceiving it totally different.
Yeah.
Literally, like, last week, we had a conversation with someone very close to us. And this person told Jesse and I, like, change is scary. Like, literally, this is a fact. Like, and in their world, that is true.
Yes.
And I'm not saying anything's right or wrong with that, but, like, that is their perception on change. It is scary.
Right.
Right. And based on, like, past experiences and things that this person has gone through in their life and traumas they've faced, like, I can 100% see why in their model of the world, change would feel scary. Mm-hmm. Even though this person acknowledged that change brings growth and it's actually exciting, like, the initial emotion that they associate with change is fear. And what was so cool about this situation was, like, Jesse, looked at this person and was like, hey, so what do you think I think about change? If you obviously are telling me that change is scary, change makes you afraid. So what do you think I think? Because sometimes we're assuming that the other person just agrees, that they see something the same as you do, right? Like,
right.
If I truly in, like, the fibers of my DNA think change is scary, I would think and assume that everyone feels that way, right? Like, that's just, I would feel like this is a fact. This is just real. Like, this is reality. Mm-hmm. anyways, like this was really powerful for me to watch because then Jesse says, you know, like, so what do you think I feel about change? And this person was like, well, I don't know. What do you mean? And Jesse responded like, well, I think change is exciting. Like Jesse didn't associate any kind of negative emotion with change. Like to him, it's a completely different emotion.
Yep.
And so neither is right or wrong, right? Like these are just based on two different models of the world and realizing that we can, you know, have a different emotion around things. But, you know, all that to say just that we all look at things differently. So while you may label something as mean or offensive, another person in the room could have a completely opposite feeling or view on it, right? So like when you consider that, it helps us to take responsibility for our reality of a situation. So like the reality I'm seeing in this situation is being created by me and the thoughts and feelings that I've already played in the stage of my mind prior to and current to this situation.
Yeah. I was going to say, one of the things, it's interesting, if you don't believe this, just try talking to someone differently on the phone. Like today I ended up calling a company and I was just asking them to cancel the account, but I was playing a little social experiment.
Okay.
The Jesse that you guys typically hear on this episode, who's happy and just like, woohoo, like this is awesome. No, I played a different role. So when they called, they're like, or when I called and they answered, how can I help you? I was very straight to the point. You guys, I've called twice. I've canceled this account. I expect a refund, and I expect you guys to take care of this today so we no longer have this issue. That's what I said. Now, was I upset? Not at all. But the other person on the phone was like, oh, you could just feel the tension, like, and they were creating a very tense situation out of me just being very, like, strong as far as I wasn't happy. I wasn't showing much of emotion. I was just very straightforward. All right. So now, me knowing this, I'm happy on the other end of the line, and I'm just playing a social experiment. But how many times have people assumed a sale to go bad because someone is having that? Maybe they're neutral, like I was today. But this lady, and I feel bad for her because like she was part of an experiment, but literally just like got all anxious, all heightened up in emotion because probably somewhere in her life she felt fear when someone talked to her that sternly.
Yeah.
And therefore, when I came in,
she associated the way you were talking with a certain emotion.
Correct, even though that was not even the case.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's what I'm trying to hit home as well, is like, the thing is, all of us have grown up differently and been taught certain things. So someone may use a swear word very lightly and loosely, and to them, that's just their model of the world. Doesn't mean they're mad, right? Or someone may speak to you a little bit more strongly or coarsely, and that doesn't mean that they don't like you. But when you start to assume or suppose the things they're saying are actually like when you start to suppose that and think that way, then that's when the different energy exchanges happen. Because if I looked at Ambry and I just spoke to her in a flat, neutral tone, and she assumed, then she's going to feel off or kind of like, you know what, I'm just going to give him his space. Well, maybe the space isn't necessarily what I needed. I was just, I was just deep in thought. Therefore, what kind of argument could, for one person, arise from that?
Yeah.
Because they're miscalculating or misreading something. Yeah. And that's where Ambry and I really want to hit this home, is like, maybe everything you're experiencing is a different energy flow because of the way you're assuming or you're looking at the situation or the response.
Yeah.
And maybe the reason why you're getting the responses that you're getting from the other party is because the other party feels misunderstood and does not feel like you're getting the full picture, or they feel judged by you because the way they're portraying something is not actually what they mean, but you're assuming it.
And we can never 100% control the way another person is going to respond to our, like the way that we conduct ourselves or whatever, right? However, I truly believe that like what's in our heart, no matter what we're actually saying or doing, the feeling associated with it, whether portrayed or not, is communicated via our energy. So like I could be saying all the right things and doing all the right things and I look perfectly happy. However, if my energy is disconnected, that will be felt.
Yes.
People will feel that. So that's why I think it's important to align like your energy and the feeling behind it, because when you do that, like, I mean, let's give an example. Like you can walk into a situation. Let's take 10 different people, walk into a situation, same exact like physical, literal things happen.
Yep.
And you could leave that situation and ask all 10 people how they felt and what happened. And every one of them will have a different way that they interpreted that situation.
Yeah.
Different feeling. Like, let's just say different feeling and dwell on that, because I think this is what that's about. A different feeling and emotion. So based on things that happened and taking 10 different people with 10 different programs, generational programming, like experiences, traumas, all of that, you're going to have 10 completely different emotions from one situation.
Yep.
And that becomes difficult for some people to understand, because it's like, well, I was there. I saw exactly what happened. How could you feel fear? How could you feel joy? Like, this is what happened, right?
Right.
But, truly, emotions are like, they are good. They are powerful, something to be learned from. But I feel like if we could remove like doubt and fear and guilt, anger, sadness, if we could remove all of those from any given situation, you can't help but succeed and walk away satisfied, right?
Sure.
And if those emotions do arise, like, there's things you can do to work through them and understand them very, quickly. But like, if you remove those 5 emotions, then what is there to experience but positive?
What's so cool about this is it reminds me of the story when we were in Scottsdale, and I turned around and I saw someone I knew, and this person didn't know me, right? But I went over and I just looked at him and said, "Hi, I'm Jesse. I know who you are.
Yeah.
You don't know who I am." Obviously not this like literal, but this is exactly what the conversation was. "I'm taking you to lunch. Don't tell me no."
Yeah.
And what was so interesting about that is he did go to lunch with us, and then he went to dinner with us, and then he went to breakfast with us, and then he went to lunch with us again.
But prior to that situation, like you had already like designed like, hey, I'm going to go talk to him. He's going to come to lunch with us.
He's going to say yes.
So you would have flowed through whatever like you needed to get to that end. However, like if in your mind you had already like you wanted that, right?
Right.
But you had kind of like put doubt in your mind of like, oh, maybe he already has someone else to go to lunch with. Yeah. Oh, maybe, I don't know. Like there's so many things you could have created in your mind that you didn't know whether or not they were true, but like you're just putting thoughts in your mind, right?
Right.
Well, how different do you think your energy would have been walking up to him and saying like, maybe it would have been more like, hey, like, you don't know me, like, this probably seems really weird. Like, like if you don't have anyone to go to lunch to, I would love for you to come to lunch with us, but no pressure. Like, I know there's a lot of people and I'm sure there's other people you'd like to go to lunch with too. Like,
just hearing
what
you
do
say
you think
that
would have happened?
Just hearing
like,
you say that is making me want
anxiety.
to change the way I talk to people in general. It's like, hey, this is it. And allow them to create their own feelings and emotions behind it.
Well, and you're not attaching like presupposed feelings to it. It's like, and regardless of what actually happens with the answer, you walk away like with clarity and like confidence in whatever it was, because your intention and the way you portrayed yourself was clear and in line with your like what you knew. So like you already knew, like, I'm going to talk to him. He's going to go to lunch with me. It wasn't like, I want this or I think this. It was like, this is happening.
Okay. So now here's something interesting because, like the way that you said it, your words are literally presupposing the outcome.
Yeah.
Because you're feeling fearful. So you're assuming all the things that this person
and
is
what
feeling.
could that be putting into their mind as you're talking?
Right.
They're like, oh, I feel doubtful, or I feel like,
oh, this guy's uncertain.
Does he
about
even actually
taking
want me to come? Like,
or is
it's
he
like,
just being nice? Did someone tell me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they start thinking these things, but like, think about that in your business, right? For the longest time, I would write, "Oh, I'm just following up." Like,
Yeah.
And that just,
No pressure,
just the word
like,
was like, oh, hey,
or you're expecting a direct answer when you're not even being like direct.
Right. Well, it's like, I'm just following up. It's like, well, if you're just following up, like you're sounding like you know that this is bugging me, and yet you're still doing it. Therefore, I don't like you even more.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe. I'm not saying that's in every case. And some people will be like, oh, yeah, that's just fine. Right? Like, whatever. But you're right. Don't presuppose. Just go tell someone what you want.
Because
I want you to buy a house.
Your presuppositions change the way you ask the question.
Right. This is what I want.
Yeah.
Now, what do you want?
Yeah.
And let's see if we're both on the same wavelength.
For sure.
And some people would call it bold. Some people would call it arrogant. No. We're dead set in what we want, in the outcome we want.
Yeah.
So therefore, instead of saying, oh, will you just do the dishes? Like, and help us out? That would be very, very helpful. And have you considered that? Like, no. Hey, will you do the dishes? Please.
Yeah. So, like...
Interesting.
Going back to like a family situation, let's say like if you presuppose that everyone like wants to be there. I mean, everyone's put the energy to at least be there. There's some reason why they're there. Like no matter what that is, right?
Yeah.
And you like presuppose all these positive feelings and energy. And I'm not just saying like telling yourself like it's going to be fine, everyone wants to be here. Like I'm saying like actually think about this and design the details around it, right? And then when that situation comes, like your energy will be different. The energy that you are non-verbally communicating will feel different. And regardless of what experience other people around you have, whether positive or negative, you get to walk away with whatever experience you freaking want. Like it doesn't matter what everyone else around you experiences. Another like, because since we just got back from our little like Scottsdale weekend last week, like there was a place that we went to for lunch, and our like in the past I'm very used to having very like talkative and outgoing for the most part like waiters and waitresses. Like that just seems like that's kind of something that
number 11.
Yeah. Well, we had this waiter and he was fantastic. Like
he was on it.
Great waiter. Like absolutely drinks. Nothing wrong, right? But like our first interaction with him was like, to me, it felt different because he really wasn't like a conversationalist, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. But you know, coming from like in the past situations where I think like that's kind of how it is, I start presupposing like, is he okay? Like, is he upset? Like, you know, is he having a bad day? Which could be the case, right? Yeah. Like, but I'm still going to treat him the same otherwise. Maybe I'll match his tonality or like, you know, mirror some of his gestures, right?
Yeah.
But like he could be perfectly fine. Like he could be happy, he could be having the best day ever, and that's just his way of communicating and his like personality, right? So like if I were to immediately take like a negative emotion, I could become very upset and be like, gosh, like he's like, what a jerk. Like this guy doesn't even care. Like I'm trying to have a good meal and he's just so like quiet and short and whatever. Like I could take offense to that if I wanted to, right? Mm-hmm. Now, let's just suppose for a moment that he did hate our guts and he thought we were like the weirdest people in the world and that's why he was acting that way. What if that were true? So what? Like I still walked away from it not feeling that way. Right. So even if, and I don't think this was actually the case, but like just to take this to the extreme, like even if this guy for whatever reason, like was responding that way because he hated me or because he truly felt a certain way, like that doesn't mean I have to have that experience. I get to choose the experience that I walk away with, right?
100%. It reminds me of one of the guys that got up on stage over the weekend and spoke, and he's like, I don't care what any of you think of me. It's like, yeah, I really don't care. And he's like, in fact, and he just takes his water and he dumps it. And it was like inches.
Ryan Hiddell.
Nadell, yeah.
Guy was an Nadell.
Not
Hiddell.
Yeah.
Nadell, sorry.
Literally
Ryan.
Impactful. And he
like throws water off the
and it's like
stage.
Right next to this like super expensive vehicle. He's like, I don't care what you think of me.
Yeah.
It's like, go ahead. Yeah. Assume whatever you want of me. It's like, go ahead. What that just happened. Oh, I'm going to do it again. He goes to the other side of the stage and throws it. And he's like, go ahead, assume even more. I don't really care. Right?
Yeah.
That was in the past. This is the present. So you can be upset at me this entire talk about me throwing water over the stage, or you can get with me in the present and hear what I have to say. Your choice. That
that's cool. That's what you walked away with from that.
Really was just kind of like, huh.
Like, he was a powerful speaker and very non-conventional.
Way non-conventional, and but holy crap. But it hits you.
Non-conventional is a label, and I always struggle with labels because it's like, well, is that what it is or not, right? But it's
he honestly, he was so confident and so in tune with himself that you could tell that no matter what someone thought, you could be sitting there with headphones on, just completely ignoring him, and you know what? He'd be chill. He'd be cool as a cucumber.
He wouldn't care. But I think truly it was because, and he acknowledged this. He's like that. None of it was ego.
Right.
It was all resolve and certainty in who he was and what he was doing.
Right.
So it's when you have resolve and certainty in what you are doing in your life, in your family, in your business, whatever. Why would it care, or why would it matter what anyone else thinks or does?
So let's go there.
Okay.
Because a lot of times we just go into things in our unconscious mind. We're just going to go do the same event, the same family reunion, the same food, the same stupid conversations. It's all stupid. Nothing ever changes. It's always the grandma who wants the hug, that gives you the kisses, it smells like roses, and it's just awful, right? I know you guys have been there before, right? We've all had that. Oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to my job because my boss hates me.
Put you
this
on
and
the
this
spot
and this.
because this used to be you going to family events.
Well, that's why I can relate with the
100%.
listeners so well.
So then, what changed for you? Because over the past several months or the past year, that you've handled or gone into family events or any comparable situation totally different,
right?
And you've walked away from them totally different. So what is it?
Well, and that's what I was going to get to. I was going to say, number one, I've become certain with myself. I keep showing up for myself every single day, right? Mm-hmm. I go to the gym, I read my books, I keep a consistent routine of things that make me feel excellent. Mm-hmm. And as I do that, I can't help but think that I don't really care what anyone else thinks because I feel excellent all the time. I'm all up in my
and you feel deserving of the respect that comes from that.
Well, and I'm just all up in my own feelings at that point. Someone I talked to today was like, oh, this person's all in their feelings. And I'm like, you know what? I want to be all in my feelings of excellence all the time because I could care less what anyone else does.
Yeah.
I could care less if this guy has a rockin' six pack or if you're the fattest man on the earth. I could care less because I feel good. And so that was the number one thing, right?
That's really powerful because I feel like in the past I've been someone to worry about what someone else thinks a lot, right? And even just a few months ago, somebody who I know that would tell me oh, I listened to your podcast, I'd be right. I would get a little I don't even know how to self-conscious,
right.
Embarrassed. I almost I didn't feel like I deserved the acknowledgement or that I truly believed that I had something powerful to offer. So
right.
Why would they listen to me?
Yeah.
Well, as of late, that has changed dramatically, especially since last week when I had this crazy breakthrough that I can't even quite describe. But just literally today, someone texted me and was like, hey, how's it going? Someone I met at a girls' night a couple months ago. And we had talked about my podcast. She asked about it. Oh, you should send me the link. Guess who never sent the link? Me. Because I was she probably really wouldn't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
Whatever. If she really wants to, she'll find it. Blah, blah, blah. Well, she texts me today and is like, how are you? Can you remind me the name of your podcast? And it was different. Today I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, here's my podcast. Thanks for asking.
Right.
I can't wait for you to listen. And I actually felt I didn't feel afraid. I was excited because I thought, what if this actually helps her? What if I actually have something that could help that person? So my confidence and my resolve in what I'm doing changed the outcome for me 100%.
Right. And that's what I'm going to go into in the next point here is number one, you're right with yourself, right? You're surrounding yourself and showing up for yourself every single day. One of the biggest quotes that I took away was that I want to be I don't want my kids to leave the front porch without recognizing a superhero.
Yeah, they
in
don't
their
have
home.
to go farther than the front porch to see a
Right.
superhero. Yeah.
That hit me so hard.
was
So like
cool.
now as I'm over there thinking about that every single day, I'm going, what would a superhero do?
Yeah.
Right? And
You're
so
going to live like that version of yourself.
what's the highest and best, Jesse? Because
Yeah.
the highest and best, Jesse, I don't get up and go to the gym for no freaking reason. I don't eat like my macros and eat food that I would rather be eating a cheeseburger for no freaking reason. There's a reason. And I don't show up and create reels on Instagram every single day for motivation for other people for no freaking reason.
Yeah.
There is a reason. And the reason goes deeper than anyone can understand listening to this podcast because it is me. It is in my DNA. It is in my God-like capabilities. And that's where I care less. Go ahead. Leave me a negative comment. Don't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to just post you again. And if you don't like it, unfollow me and get off my ship because I don't care anymore. Right?
Yeah. But when you design and get a glimpse of that highest and best version of yourself, that's powerful. You do act differently and you make decisions differently based on who you know you are.
And that's the thing is you start to make those decisions and it continues to fuel you. And then you go to the party and you go, you know what? I can actually change the outcome of this freaking party, this family reunion that I have hated for so many years. Guess what? I can change this whole thing in the flip of a switch because I've changed my life around in the flip of a switch. So guess who's in control? Me. So what am I going to do? I'm going to show up to the party and I'm going to say, this is the conversation I want. This is the results I'm going to get. And this is when I'm going to leave. And if anyone has a problem with it, they can get off my ship.
And if someone chooses to walk away with a totally different or negative feeling from it, right? Like that's unfortunately, like that's their problem. Like, you know, you can do everything in your power, right? But like it's a choice at the end of the day. And I think boundaries are very, very important in specifically family relationships, work relationships, you know, and sales too. But like in family relationships, like boundaries are everything. Like, and you have to determine what those are and how those work. And I mean, otherwise you will not be happy with the outcome.
Yeah. And I honestly, once again, I'll just go back to you are a creator. Like one of the coolest quotes I heard was this weekend was, if you believe that you're created in the image of God, why are you living a mediocre life? Because God's not mediocre.
No, he's not.
So why aren't you creating the outcome you truly want? But the thing is you've got to know what it is you want.
Yeah.
What is it that you want when you go to that family reunion? Well, most of us don't. Well, most of us, myself included, 2 years ago, I don't even want to freaking be here.
Yeah. But why?
Right?
Because you didn't determine a purpose or why
There
you were
was no
going.
purpose.
Like,
right.
Yeah.
But I felt that the purpose was because I was trying to make you happy. Well,
or make other people or like,
or make
you know,
other people
my mom
happy.
or your mom or, you know,
Well,
your
guess what?
grandma or whoever.
Now I show up because I want to be impactful to people and because I want to compliment people and because I want people to feel this energy that I have that makes them go, holy crap, whatever that guy has.
What did you do with Jesse?
I need that.
Well, and like if in the past, like if you presuppose certain outcomes or certain behaviors or the way other people are going to be, you're probably like, you're not going to want to go because you're going to keep getting the same response and the same experience out of that situation. So no wonder, you know, like you wouldn't want to go. And the point the quote you brought up about like, God's not mediocre. When the speaker who said that, I can't remember who exactly said
it was
that
our
one.
good friend,
Was
John
it
Madsen.
John? Okay, I was going to say,
Yeah.
I think it was John Madsen. So John was the one that said that, and it made me like stop in my tracks and go, okay, like the closest thing I can like on this earth currently interpret to be like similar to my relationship with God and myself is my relationship with my children, because I am a daughter of God and I have a daughter, right? So it makes me think like, okay, what if my daughter was to think or tell me like she didn't believe that she could or deserved to be like the highest and best version of me? I'd be like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like, you know, or she thought that maybe she was doing me a respect or a service or honoring me by cowering down and letting me shine, and cowering down and not, you know, working her hardest to be the best version of herself, just like I've done. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want that. Like, no. I'd be like, get up, shine, like find your highest and best self and do it. Like, go for it because you were meant to shine.
Yeah.
And so I truly feel like, without taking any respect away from God himself, because I will always respect and aspire to be more and more like him in every way.
Yeah.
And do not wish to, like, you know, put myself on that level in any way, right? However, I think that he'd be looking at me going like, get up, do it. I want you to be like me. I want you to, you know, see your divine being inside of you.
If Quincy or Trey came up to me and said, Dad, I don't want to be like you because I want you to shine, I would be like, shut up. I'm sacrificing everything.
Yeah.
Everything. The things I do for this podcast, the work, everything in my heart, I'm sacrificing for you to be better than me.
Right. And everything that I am doing and am creating is, at the end of the day, to teach you and to show you
that you can be better.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't you want to become better and higher than God himself? If that's how you feel as an individual with your kids, don't you think God wants the same for you?
I think that it's like a fine line, right? Because like, while I believe, like, generationally speaking, like, we always strive to grow and to, you know, take things that maybe we felt like could be done better and, you know, move forward and do better. There's always still that innate and deep respect. And
like, there always will be.
No one can ever take the place of your mom or your dad, right? So like, I guess that's where I'm coming from, is like,
sure.
Like, although I believe that God wants us to, like, there's no limit to what we can do and who we can become.
Right.
Like, he still always hold this, like, very sacred spot, right?
Yeah.
Just because we do, like, he is, like, our greatest. Well, the greatest being and our greatest
let's talk about that for a second,
right?
Because, and let's talk about that, because for those that know me very well, I have a drug addict father. I have a father that left us at 12 years old. My mom,
past,
on my birthday, on my 12-year-old birthday, she pulled us out of the house, and I watched my father in handcuffs as we left the door. Okay? Do I still have respect for my father? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But can I say that I'm in a better situation at 33 years old than he was? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's still a high respect. And if he's listening to this podcast, he knows that respect. A son still gives the respect to his father. Yeah. However, can you become better?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he would want you to.
And he wants me to.
But I guess the comparison I was just trying to draw is like, as much as like you, there'd always be that spot and like sacred place of respect.
100%.
You know, like 100%. I truly believe someday God would want us to be creating our own world, right? And that could be like, that's going to be based on like all of our experience and all of these things that we've done, right? So like, it could look a little different, right? Yeah. And that's not right or wrong. However, like, he will always hold, like, there's this sacred spot. And I don't have all the answers, like, infinitely and eternally. Like, that's something that I don't have currently, right? But like, I do wonder, like, did our God have a God? And, is there like
an evolution?
I don't know. But speaking based off of directly just relationships, right? Like, I know my mom wants me to be better than her. Like, and that has zero disrespect towards her at all. But like, because I understand now, I have a daughter, I understand, like, I want Quincy to be like 1,000,000 times better than I am. Right. That doesn't mean I don't think I'm good, or I don't think I'm, worthy or the best version of myself. It's just, I know she can do better. Right. She has it in her. And because of everything I've given her, she can.
Well, and it's your sole responsibility to be the best self you can, so that she, as your child, stretches herself even further to be even better than you.
Amazing. That's, right? I like, currently am obsessed with generational growth, because I believe that it is so powerful. And like, you can create leaps and bounds and maybe even like thousands of years of growth with your generation, like where you are right now is powerful.
Right. And I would say all it takes is for you to show up.
Yeah.
And to design what you want and go after the things you truly want.
Yeah.
If you want the family reunion or the family party to be what you want it to be, then go make it happen. But if you don't know what you want it to be like and you're just living in the past based off of all the decisions and things that people have said, number one, I'm going to argue that you don't believe people can actually change.
Yeah.
And then number two,
and if that's your belief, then it's
that,
going to be hard for them to,
right.
feel that energy.
And then number two, I'm going to challenge you and say, do you even have control of your life? Mm-hmm. Because if you can't even change the outcome of the party that you want, do you have control of you?
That's a good point, because there could be like something aligned in your life that like is just as discontented, right? Like,
oh, well, think about it. All these kids how many of us as parents go, oh, you better not do that because everyone's watching.
Right.
What does that do? That literally rips control out of the child and their decisions because of everyone else around them and the influence.
Yeah.
So, number one, stop.
Which I hate.
Saying that. Number one, stop saying that to your child.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Oh, do you think your grandma would like that? No, shut up. It doesn't matter what grandma thinks. It doesn't.
Yeah. And if your kid doesn't want to give someone a hug, it's okay.
It's okay. So stop forcing your kid to do something they don't want to do. And those are the things.
Because you're teaching them at that point to like live based on pleasing everyone and like making everyone else happy. Well, what about their happiness, right?
Well,
and I think that's why okay, let me rephrase this. I think that's why sometimes one might find that like over time their child grows up and kind of like goes off, does their own thing, goes off the deep end, whatever you want to call it, is because like their whole life they were programmed to everything they did, whether it was really what they wanted or not, in their mind, it was for I'm just going to say it wrong reason. Like it was for a reason that was not.
Well, they were habitually trained that they had no control. So then guess what? Yeah. Someone walks up and goes, hey child, here's a blunt. You want to smoke it? Oh, it would hurt my feelings if you don't smoke this with me. Oh, okay. Yes. Well, guess what? I don't have control of my own feelings, so give me the dang thing and I'm going to smoke it with you. Now what do you have? That is why
boundaries are so important.
Right.
Because we need to be raising a generation of children that have resolve and confidence and conviction in what they believe and what they want and the future that they are building.
Yes.
And if they don't feel that they have control or that they have the voice or that they can use their own mind, that will not happen.
Nope.
So like
it starts in the home. It starts with you. And if you don't feel like you have control over your own life, you better start taking the reins and taking that control.
Yeah,
because guess what? It
literally does start with you, like taking control of
You can design anything you want. If you want the family party, you want the business to go the way you want it, then freaking write it down of how you want it to do it and implement. And don't take anyone else's opinion or hurt feelings as an excuse for why you can't do what you do. Yeah. And that's it. Do you think a professional athlete cares about what everyone else thinks about them? No, they're in the gym, they're grinding. Why? Because they have a higher purpose. You go ask someone why, they go, it's because my mom, who grew up without a father, I grew up without a father, and my mom was making ends meet, and I wanted something better for her. Right? That's what most professional athletes are fighting for. There's a higher purpose, and they see themselves as the reason to take responsibility to help their family. We see that time in and time out all the time. Entrepreneurs, same thing. You know what? I want something better. I didn't like the way I was at. I didn't like not being able to get the toy at the grocery store or the candy at the candy store. So I'm going to step in and I'm going to freaking show up and I'm going to go every day so I can have the things I want. Right? There's intention behind everything we do. And you have to understand you do have control. So to wrap this show up, number one, you've got to get right with yourself. You've got to understand your higher purpose. Why do you do the things you freaking do? Okay? Then number two, design what you want. What is the outcome you want before you go into that event? And then you focus on that outcome and you stop worrying about what everyone else thinks because you're there for one thing and one thing only. Maybe it's for your mom or maybe it's for your dad who hasn't told you they love you in a long time to look at you and say, wow, I really do love you. Maybe that's your sole intention. And you might not get it in that moment. But if that's your sole intention and that means so much to you, you will eventually get it. And you will change. And people will go, what has happened to you? And you'll go, I just changed inside. The things that are important to me. I'm going after the things I want instead of the things I don't want.
Yeah.
And as you do that, you will find your environment changes before your eyes.
It's true.
Like
your reality changes.
There will be a day when I share about something that happened, but I literally had a massive energy exchange with a gentleman speaking on stage to the point where I couldn't even physically stand, and I was crying and sweating profusely because I believed in myself to ask a question that no one else in that freaking room would ask to this multi-millionaire gentleman.
Yeah.
And one day we'll talk about that and go into it. But right now, I'm still emotionally charged from that.
We'll base a whole podcast about it. Don't worry.
I can't even the energy still is coming out of me, and I'm still feeling that. And there are people that are texting still. They're like, "Holy crap! Whatever you did, I felt that.
It was powerful.
That was huge." You've got to be right with yourself and know what you want.
100% agree. I think this is really awesome, and I hope that you've been able to gain some kind of nugget or whatever you want to call it from this episode. Before we close, at the beginning, we kind of talked about how a lot of times in these situations, what causes the outcome is a negative emotion, right? Whether it's fear, doubt, guilt, anger, sadness, one of those, whatever it is. So what I want to share is something that one of our amazing coaches has shared with us, which is what do you do when you feel that emotion? How do you solve that? And so Jesse, help me out if I take any of these steps the wrong way. But if you feel fear, let's just go with fear, because I think that's one that maybe a lot of people can relate to. But if you feel fear, what do you do? So you ask yourself, okay, what's the problem?
Yep.
And then once you identify the problem, and then once you have the problem identified, you ask yourself, okay, so when did I choose to create this problem for myself? So that might sound like an odd question, but you take accountability. When did I first choose? And I think we maybe, I always say this, but maybe we can do another whole episode just about this formula, because I think it's very powerful. And there's a lot that we could talk about on each step. But second step, when? And so this could be when you were little. This could have been while you were in the womb. This could even have been before you were born, that you first chose to feel fear, right? And so decide that. And then the third step would be to ask yourself, what can I learn from this so I can let it go? And what's so powerful in that is that any emotion that is not serving us that we feel, it's not a bad thing to feel that. It's there for a reason. Trust yourself, right? So what can you learn from it? What is your body and or mind trying to teach you? And consider that so that you can let it go, and that it can, free you from that feeling, and you can take the learning and move forward. Yep. And then the final step, number 4, is, what is it? It'll come.
What do I want?
Oh, what do I want to feel instead? So replace it, right?
Yep.
We talk all the time about I don't want to feel fear. It's okay, so what do you want instead? Mm-hmm. Right? Turn it into a positive. So, and it's interesting how the step isn't just I feel fear. Okay, now flip it into something else. You go through the steps of acknowledging and accepting and then learning from it, and then going, now what do I want to feel? Now that I can let it go and I've acknowledged the learning, now what can I feel instead?
Yep.
And depending on that problem, that feeling, that situation, you'll discover what you would rather feel instead and implement that. And that's so powerful.
What's interesting too is the emotions are clues to a deeper meaning of why you are the way you are.
Right.
They just show up.
Yeah. They're just a symbol or a signal of something. So what are they signaling to? And what can you learn from that? Because once you can release that and take the learning, because that's all it is. Your body's trying to tell you something.
Right.
So learn and let go.
Right. And if you can learn that and crack the code to your emotions and to your internal self.
Holy crap.
Imagine.
Watch out, world.
Hey, why do I feel sadness? And you find this thing clear back when you were a kid, the first time you felt sadness, and then you realize that this is just a evolution of sadness that you felt throughout your life that you haven't been able to let go. And the minute you let that go, you want to talk about like losing weight. Losing weight's great, but emotional weight is even better.
Oh, yeah.
Because
a million
now you feel
times
lighter, and now all of a sudden you feel a little more invincible.
Maybe losing physical weight would even become easier at that point.
It did
because
for me.
everything emotionally is tied to something in the physical.
It did for me. So,
anyways,
guys, we freaking love you.
Thanks again for like the feedback and the questions and the ideas of topics. I think like right now we've got several weeks worth of topics in the queue, potentially lined up, and so keep those coming, because if there's one that we get like super excited about, it just might end up on next week. So thanks for being here.
And I just want to say, I apologize for being on my phone, but the text message as we were speaking just came in saying, thank you so much for the outlook that you've been able to help me change on my life.
Whoa.
You guys, this is why we're doing what we're doing. And
this is why you can do what you were going to do.
Yes, to be able to take control of your life. And so I hope that you all have a fantastic week.
Yep.
And I hope that you find what you're looking for in the clues in your emotions so that you can feel liberated and free.
And you can create any experience you want from any environment.
Yep. You deserve it.
Yes, you do. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you.